Good evening, fellow Titans. It's Glitch, and I am back with another City of Titans related video. As stated in my discussion tab, if you guys look over there every time and again, I said my next video is going to be themed around registration of superhumans or enhanced individuals in Titan City, and this is specifically called Law and the Superhero. Simply addressing how heroes or metahumans, superhumans, whatever you choose to address them as, how they are to be handled and regulated in the world of Titan City, which is also based in Gloucester, Massachusetts, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I chose to state this because I don't think I've ever addressed where Titan City is actually located in any of my previous videos, but I thought I'd do it here simply because it'd be more than because it would be better to address that here rather than anywhere else. So yeah, there's that. I'd also like to welcome all my latest subscribers. I think I've seen an increase of about 4, so now I'm at 7 subscribers, and I'd like to welcome you all here and thank you all for choosing to subscribe. And I hope you all enjoy the ride as we go from now to potential beta and any other news that is to come out regarding City of Titans. Because again, this project matters very dearly to me because I have been in just a mood of finding another superhero MMO, especially with so many being gone right now. Um, yeah, just what is there now? There's Champions Online, which recently won an award for longest running superhero MMO. And then there's DC Universe Online, but due to problems with the company, from what I've heard, there is some debate on what's going to happen with that. I'm not being some kind of doomsayer or anything, but there's that. So I really am holding out hope for City of Titans, as well as the other spiritual successors that you guys may not know about, or if you have heard of at least, which is Ship of Heroes and Valiance Online. But either way, I'm just going to be going a somewhat of a okay. This is probably not going to be a very brief video because I've crammed a lot of information into these slides here, and I'll try to explain them to the best of my ability as I usually do in these kind of videos. But yes, so to start things off, we're going to go with an overview of how did the registration come about. Well, in 1970, there were 2 cases by the names of New York versus Tigran and United States versus not Spess, which saw the Supreme Court declare superpower status is constitutionally protected as suspect classification underneath the 14th Amendment. As a result, this caused the Supreme Court to strike down that New York City and Washington D.C. requirements that all superhuman beings register with local governments regardless of their powers as constitutional. States and municipalities, however, cannot impose special requirements on superhuman beings absent of a compelling state interest. Now, Titan City, they do indeed follow these rules, but not rules, these laws, but they do not require but it does not require universal registration. Now, Tigran, the character who actually was a part of the case in one of these cases in 1970, he actually apparently from what he is described as, he was a tiger-like humanoid created by strange scientific experiments, and he had to undergo an additional layer of registration. And apparently, the Supreme Court also struck down that sentient species are entitled to equal protection under the law, and the term species was also extended to include robots and AIs. And basically, it was settled that if a creature is to be self-aware, can reason, and can communicate with humans, it is entitled to the same legal rights as a human, which in other words meaning that if your character classifies as something that can be non-human, ex-human, or they're in that middle ground of where they're kind of like Tigran in a way. There's a tiger-like humanoid, but he was created through scientific experimentation. They are still applied to the same rights as a human, given their ability to be self-aware, capability to reason, and can communicate with humans. So, in other words, like it says here at the bottom, that any form of sentience gives the character in question the same rights as a human. And on to our next slide, we have regulation of superhuman powers, registration. So, when does a superhuman need to register their powers, if ever? And our question is answered by saying that any dangerous or intrusive power must be registered. Now, apparently, there is actually some sort of time window that it follows after this. And I'll explain what dangerous and intrusive powers are later. But basically, your powers must be registered if you are to want your character to be on this registration of any kind. They are to do this 30 days of 30 days within first use of their powers or within public use for a non-emergency purpose. Wait, I hope I'm reading that right. But yeah, any dangerous or intrusive power must be registered before public use for a non-emergency purpose or within 30 days of first use for an emergency purpose. Now, this also includes initial manifestation, which means, oh, your character's walking along the street and then all of a sudden they start getting a headache, and then next thing you know, a massive surge of energy is let out from their body, and it kind of maybe causes a little bit of wreckage, but nothing too destructive. But yeah, that is an example of initial manifestation. You are it is required, pretty more or less, that if you are to follow this, that you are to register your character within 30 days of um emergency of a non of an either a non-emergency purpose or an emergency purpose. Oh gosh. And the more simpler way of explaining this is, any dangerous or intrusive power, it must be registered either within 30 days of a non-emergency or emergency purpose, and that includes the initial manifestation, which could be anything from like the scenario I just described, or anything from where, oh, you're probably defending a friend from being attacked by a group of muggers and you notice, oh, I can fire energy blasts from my hands. There's that. Um, This also includes weapons, gadgets, magical abilities, and even special skills, as well as inherent powers. Titan City law requires for registration with the Department of Public Use before using said dangerous power or intrusive powers in public use for a non-emergency purpose. Superhumans will also have 30 days after using them in public, like for the first time for an emergency purpose. Initial manifestation counts as an emergency purpose. So yes, um, in other words, yeah, 30 days to register your powers either for an emergency purpose or non-emergency purpose, even if that emergency purpose is your initial manifestation of your abilities. Going on to our next one is what powers must be registered, and like I said before, dangerous or intrusive power. And dangerous powers are declared anything from deadly weapons to your own body or personal training, such as the feet or fists of a martial artist. So there's that. So dangerous powers, weapons, probably even things like biological based powers, like the iconic energy blast or super strength. Things like those are considered dangerous powers, and they must be registered. Intrusive powers are anything that can interfere with the privacy or peace of an ordinary reasonable person. So this includes anything from your character's enhanced senses or special senses, uh, extrasensory perception, such as ESP, whether that be precognition, postcognition, retrocognition, or anything like that, telepathy, and powers that would constitute a noise or light complaint if they are to be used after 11 p.m. So yes, those are examples of intrusive powers. They must be registered if your character is to want to, have their powers be put on the record. And now, confidentiality of secret identities, and registration records. Registration does not involve background checks or psychological assessments. It is strictly a record-keeping operation. And as you can see bolded out here, you do not need to disclose your real name upon registering, but if you choose not to, you must select the inappropriate alias. This alias can also include your superhero name as well, or just some fake name that your character could be rolling by as well. But either way, another question that was asked was, if a registrant testifies in court, does he have to disclose his identity or remove his mask? And no, the Supreme Court has ruled that in a costumed identity, if the witness conceals his face, it is permissible as long as independent guarantees of identity, such as a powers registration record, are present. Meaning your character is able to testify in court with their mask on as long as there is some record of them registering with the government in some way. Now, as stated before, it does not involve you needing to reveal your identity, and your identity is no longer secret. No, it's simply a record-keeping operation, something simple, similar to the census, where it's just keeping record of everything. You don't need to give your real name or anything like that. However, if your character is to not be registered at all, then chances are you may see your identity may have to be revealed. However, going into our next thing here, paragraph here. Ever since the first boom of superheroism in the 1930s, which gives you a clue that superheroism is still pretty recent in the City of Heroes timeline. Oh god, City of Titans timeline. While in the 19th, the first boom was described as being in the 1930s. Multiple courts have held this rule that a hero needs not to unmask themselves in court as long as independent guarantees of the witness's identity and truthfulness are available to the judge. So again, as long as your character is being truthful, or there are guarantees such as these records that are available to the judge to use and go off of, then your character does not need to unmask themselves. However, if these fail to exist, then there may be a chance your character has to reveal their identity, especially if they are not registered in any way and they find themselves in a courtroom somewhere. So, the courts have also held, citing privacy and safety concerns, that registrants need not answer questions about their identities on the stand, which is self-explanatory, meaning that due to those privacy concerns of the individual, in this case the hero in question, they do not need to answer questions regarding their secret identity. So there's that. Now, whether or not this applies both ways for unregistered or non-registered superhumans is debatable, but this is the answer that was given along with the proposed question. So how do freelance crime fighters arrest criminals? And also I forgot to read the title here: Arrests, Searches, and Other Police-like Operations by Registrants. So how do freelance crime fighters arrest criminals? So freelance crime fighters would be anyone from like your typical street hero who's not registered, but they are stopping bad guys, and they're doing something in the way of like keeping them restrained until the actual police show up so they can legally arrest them. But the answer given was, a person is under arrest whenever he's in a situation where a reasonable person would not feel free to leave. And this even applies if a superhuman is to knock a suspect unconscious with their super strength and say you're under arrest. This rule, by the way, is the same for both police and non-police. So, again, I think that's pretty understandable for those that are watching. A person's under arrest if they're in a situation where a reasonable person would say would feel free to not would not feel free to leave. Yeah, I'm stamping on over my words so much today. And when can a registrant legally arrest someone? And this basically just proposes probable cause, and there is an absolute guarantee that they have committed a felony or misdemeanor in the presence of that registrant. So good luck trying to arrest somebody if they didn't commit the crime in your line of sight, because then it's kind of hearsay and it's going to have a hard time holding up in court. So probable cause also means more than mere suspicion, but much less than certainty beyond a reasonable doubt. And then this is the final slide, which is use of deadly force. When can a registrant use deadly force, such as a dangerous power, against the foe? Now, this is probably like the number one question that is held in high regard to things like this, but a registrant is allowed to use lethal force whenever they feel that either their life or the lives of others are in danger, especially when the foe in question is using deadly force as well, or when the foe is a fleeing violent felon. Now, this criteria has been historically interpreted in favor for the registrant in most cases, but this is the only time in when deadly force is actually allowed, when either the life of the hero or registrant or the lives of others around them are in danger, and the foe that they're pursuing is a fleeing felon that, you know, has the reputation of causing quite a bit of damage or destruction and taking multiple lives, or if not several. So that is the only time in which deadly force would be allowed and hold up in a court. And the final summary for all this is registration is not used as a way to track powers, just to keep records of emerging superpowered allies that wish to aid in crime investigations or stopping criminals, more or less superpowered crime fighters. So, in general, the overall wrap up of all this is if a hero captures a foe, whether it be by grabbing them or knocking them unconscious and telling them don't go anywhere, that counts as an arrest. And heroes can make arrests as long as they have probable cause that the person committed the crime. If they didn't commit the crime and they don't have that probable cause, then there is no need or guarantee to put them under arrest without the absolute guarantee. Like I said, absolute guarantee and not absolute guarantee. Probable cause is more than mere suspicion, but far less than the formal beyond a reasonable doubt. So again, that's how registration is to be handled in City of Titans. So the basic wrap up is, excuse me, is powers that must be registered are dangerous or intrusive powers. All right, dangerous powers can be anything from weapons your character holds to the enhanced or superhuman physical attributes of their character, whether that be something like super strength or durability and vulnerability, anything like that. And intrusive powers are anything that can go from any form of enhanced sensories abilities, extrasensory perception, which is ESP, which would include the criteria of precognition, postcognition, retrocognition, and anything that could cause a noise or light complaint after 11 p.m. So, yeah, that is the powers that are to be registered underneath the Registration Act. Uh, the other thing that is, especially for those that play a lot more non-human characters, um, as long as your character has some form of sentience in the way where they are able to communicate with people, they are able to reason, and they are able to reason with other individuals or just have other human-like qualities about them. Even if they're robots or AIs or some weird in between in where they're kind of human but they're kind of not through technical standard or anything of that nature, they still qualify underneath the same rights a human has, simply due to their ability to do the very same things a human can do, which is talk, reason, and have certain all the same features and characteristics that a human would have. So that's the other thing. And then our final point here is deadly force, which is, oh yeah, I'm skipping over the arrests. Even if you're freelance or you're a registrant of any kind, you're able to put someone under arrest as long as you have probable cause that the person committed a crime in any way, shape, or form, as long as that crime was committed in your line of sight, as well as you have probable cause that they committed the crime. So, and now on to our final point of deadly force, which is deadly force is to be allowed whenever the foe is whenever the foe the registrant is going up against is using deadly force as well, that is in turn endangering the life of the registrant or of the lives of others in the general vicinity. And as a result, that will allow for the registrant to use deadly force because that is when it's deemed necessary, especially when the foe is the bad guy in which they're fighting is using it as well. And so, yes, and I think the last PS of this overall presentation is that registration does not require you to reveal your identity or let anyone know of your real name at all. It's just mostly meant as a census keeping record kind of thing. It's meant to keep regulation on superhumans, how many of them are to emerge or exist overall in Titan City, and just keep an overall number on them, is more or less. So I think that is about it for this video. Like always, I will put this slideshow presentation in the link description below, for you guys to refer back to if you ever need it. And yeah, that'll be about it. There'll be more videos to come later, later either this week or next. And I will see you all later. And remember to fly free and to answer the call.